My name is Juliet Cross, and for most of my life, I've kept things together. My apartment, my finances, my emotions. I was the calm one, in every room, the kind who apologizes when others cry, who makes spreadsheets for grief and coffee for chaos. I'm 32 years old. I work in human resources. The irony's never lost on me. I make people feel heard while never speaking my own truth. But that changed the day my sister called me at 2:19 a.m., whispering like she was hiding from something or someone. "Jules, I think I'm in trouble. Please don't tell Mom." That was the last time I heard the old Ruby, the one who laughed with her whole face, the one who played nurse on stuffed animals and practiced wedding vows in front of my bedroom mirror. What came next? The weeks, the months, shattered whatever innocence we both had left. This story isn't about healing. It's about what you become when no one protects the ones you love. 2 years earlier, I hadn't been home from work 5 minutes when I heard the knock. I knew it was her. She always knocked twice, then paused, then knocked once more, like she was unsure if she should have come at all. I opened the door and there she was. Ruby, barely 22, eyes red, shoulders slumped under an oversized hoodie, backpack clutched tight to her chest. I didn't ask. I just stepped aside. She walked in and dropped onto the couch like her legs had stopped working. "Do you want tea?" I asked, defaulting to control mode. She shook her head. Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Then she said it. "I'm pregnant," and he left. No build-up, no drama. Just 2 sentences that changed everything. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe. Instead, I sat beside her and reached for her hand. Cold, trembling, and small, like she was 5 again and afraid of thunder. "Tell me everything." His name was Carter Blake. He was 26. Ruby met him in her second semester at Lehigh Valley Nursing College. He was one of those founder guys, always on the phone, always pitching something. A walking TED Talk with just enough charm to look sincere. I met him once. That was enough. He smiled too wide, spoke too smooth, and he called me Jules even though I never gave him permission. Predators don't always have fangs. Some wear Patagonia vests and talk about IPOs. Ruby told me he'd ghosted her 5 days ago after she finally told him she was 4 months along. She waited so long because she was scared, not of being pregnant, but of what Carter might say. "He told me he'd be there for me no matter what," she whispered. "Was he angry?" She hesitated. No. Worse. He was calm. He said, "You'll figure it out. Just don't make a scene." Then he blocked my number. I stood up, pacing. My hands were fists before I realized I'd even clenched them. "I'll go to him," I said. "I'll make him." "No." Her voice was firm for the first time. "He'll just twist it. You didn't see how good he is at turning things around. He'll make me look crazy." I turned back to her. "Then we don't go to him. We go through him." That night, Ruby moved in. I gave her my bedroom and made up the couch. I thought that would be the worst of it. I was wrong. Pregnancy isn't a soft pink cloud. It's vomiting, backaches, dizzy spells, and shame when your jeans don't fit, and your mother keeps calling asking if you're still wasting time with that nursing nonsense. Ruby didn't tell her. I didn't either. We became ghosts in our own family. 2 women building a life out of broken pieces. And I realized something I never admitted before. I loved Ruby more than I loved anyone. I would burn the world to keep her safe. One morning, I found her sitting on the bathroom floor, holding a stick with 2 pink lines. Again. "I took another one, just to be sure," she said. "I believe you." She looked at me, her eyes wide, with something in between fear and hope. "Do you think she'll hate me?" "Who?" "The baby." I knelt down, wiped a tear from her cheek. "No," I whispered. "She'll thank you for surviving." Ruby nodded, but I could see it. The ache, the doubt, the shame. Carter hadn't just left. He'd made her feel disposable. That's when I stopped thinking like a sister and started planning like a strategist. People think trauma screams, that it's dramatic, loud, obvious, but Ruby didn't cry like that. She didn't throw things or post cryptic captions on Instagram. She just shrunk, quietly, daily, like a paper left in the rain. She moved around my apartment like a ghost, ate toast with no butter, slept without a blanket, never asked for anything, and when she smiled, because she still tried to smile, it never reached her eyes. That's when I realized she didn't just need protection. She needed a witness, someone to say, yes, it happened, and no, it wasn't your fault. We never told our parents. Ruby was too scared, and I already knew what would happen. Our mother believed mistakes were infections. You contain them, cut them out, and deny they ever existed. She never forgave me for switching my college major to psychology, claimed I wasted my potential. If she found out her youngest daughter was pregnant, unwed, abandoned, she wouldn't rush to help. She'd host a brunch and leak it like gossip. So we told her Ruby was interning in Toronto, some program tied to nursing. She barely asked questions, just told me to remind Ruby to look presentable on Zoom. I wish I could say I was surprised by that reaction, but the truth is, we'd both been surviving our family for years. 10 years ago, flashback. It was a Tuesday night. I was 19, Ruby was 13. Our dad was in the garage. Mom was making lists again. Things we'd done wrong this week. Ruby left the milk out. I forgot to RSVP for a church event. The neighbors saw Ruby rollerblading in shorts. "Do you think we raised you to behave like this?" she said, waving the paper like it was scripture. Ruby stood next to me, silent, shoulders hunched. I didn't speak. Not until Mom started in on the family name. Then I snapped. I don't care about the family name. I care about her. Mom slapped the counter hard. You think the world gives you credit for being soft, Juliet? It doesn't. Weak girls get used. They get abandoned. They get forgotten. That line lived in my bones for a decade, and I didn't realize it until I saw Ruby living it out in real time. Back to present. I found Ruby's phone one morning, screen still lit from a notification. Normally, I wouldn't touch it, but her sleep had been restless. She'd cried in the shower the night before, and I needed to know what was breaking her apart in pieces I couldn't reach. The phone was unlocked. I opened her messages. Carter Blake. His name sat like venom at the top of the thread. She hadn't deleted anything. Carter, this isn't the time, Rubes. You're emotional. Carter, I'll Venmo you for whatever. Just keep it quiet, okay? Carter, you knew I wasn't ready. Don't turn this into something it's not. I nearly threw the phone against the wall, but instead, I opened the voice memos app. There were recordings. I clicked the top one. It played on speaker. You're sweet, Ruby, really, but I've got enough going on right now. Let's just not make this messy. Click. Next one. We had fun. Let's leave it at that. My stomach twisted. Next, don't make me block you. I pressed pause. My hands were shaking. This wasn't heartbreak. This was emotional violence. Ruby walked in behind me. I didn't even hear her at first. She saw the phone in my hand. Her face dropped. Why are you? I held it out gently. I'm not mad at you. She blinked. I just want to understand why you're letting a man like this speak to you like you don't exist. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought if I didn't fight back, he'd come back. Oh, Ruby, I whispered, pulling her into me. He doesn't deserve that kind of loyalty. She sobbed into my shoulder. I didn't promise her it would be okay, because it wasn't. But I did promise her this. He won't get away with it. I'll make sure of it. That night, I opened my laptop and created a new Gmail, elena.lake.consults@gmail.com. I opened LinkedIn and started building a profile. Name, L. Donovan, profession, UX consultant, Freelance. Location: Philadelphia, PA. Background: Berlin tech firms. Remote agile workflow specialist. Previous contract work for health apps. I spent hours tweaking, crafting a perfect identity, someone Carter's company would drool over. By 2 a.m., I had 3 mock-up portfolios, 1 fake reference, and a cover letter that would make any founder's ego tingle. I clicked apply, and then I sat back and smiled for the first time in weeks. There's a strange calm that comes before betrayal, like the silence just before a violin string snaps. I felt it the first day I walked into CoreQuant. They called me L. Donovan. I let them. I wore wire-framed glasses, a fake German accent that faded the deeper I got into conversation, and a portfolio I built from scratch over a long, sleepless weekend. Carter's assistant met me at the front desk. She had nervous eyes, the kind that dart like prey around a predator. "Mr. Blake's just finishing up a call," she said. "You can wait in the conference room." She didn't smile. No one did. That's how I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. After I submitted the fake application, I wasn't sure it would work. These startup types usually hire friends or recycled frat brothers in Patagonia vests. But CoreQuant was in panic hiring mode, scaling fast, growing messy. They needed consultants who could streamline communication systems. And my fake background? Perfect for a job no one understood well enough to question. I nailed the video interview. Dropped just enough tech lingo to sound credible. And when Carter reviewed my resume and saw Berlin UX Labs and Seed certified in AI trust frameworks, he probably thought hiring me made him look smart. "We could use a European edge around here," he said. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just smiled and said, looking forward to helping the team stay aligned. The office was all glass and steel. No personality, just cold air and designer coffee machines. Carter walked in 5 minutes late. He didn't recognize me. I'd dyed my hair darker, changed my posture, even wore a soft contact lens to change my eye color. But the truth is, men like Carter don't see women unless they're useful. "L, great to meet you in person." He reached for my hand. I shook it briefly. His grip was firm, the kind that says, "I own this room." He didn't own me. My first 2 weeks, I played dumb. I asked innocent questions, sat in on strategy calls, observed patterns. Carter didn't use email much. He liked voice notes and Slack DMs. He spoke in buzzwords, lied in metrics, and flirted with the junior designer in ways that would make an HR rep twitch. His office door was rarely closed. He liked an audience, and I was listening, always listening. On day 11, I found what I was looking for. I stayed late working on UI flow drafts. Everyone else had gone. Carter's iPad was open on the table, screen still lit. Slack. I wasn't hacking anything. It was just there. His conversation with a guy named Troy, VP of Product, was filled with red flags. "Carter, just push Ruby's name off the reports. No need to stir anything." Troy, "You sure? HR's gonna ask." Carter, "Let them. If they dig, I'll say she was stalking me. I've got voice notes." "You covered, bro." My skin turned cold. He planned it. All of it. He used Ruby, abandoned her, then created a fake narrative in case it came back to bite him. This wasn't just emotional abuse. This was corporate gaslighting. I screenshotted every message. Later that night, I called Ruby. "You okay?" she asked. She was getting better. Still tired, still pale, but she was eating again, watching movies, laughing, just barely. I didn't tell her where I'd been. Not yet. I just said, "I think we're almost there." She didn't ask for details. She trusted me. That made me more dangerous than Carter could ever imagine. Meanwhile, Ruby collapsed 3 days later. She was home alone. I came back from work and found her curled on the bathroom floor, clutching her stomach whispering, "It's too early, it's too early." My heart stopped. I called 911. The ambulance came in 8 minutes. She was rushed to the ER. I held her hand the whole way, whispering the only words I could string together. "You're okay. You're okay. I've got you." She passed out halfway there. At the hospital, the nurse asked if I was her partner. "No," I said. "I'm her sister." She nodded and let me through. Ruby was stable, but the baby was coming early. She was only 31 weeks. They prepped her for an emergency C-section. I sat in the waiting room, staring at the vending machine, thinking about how Carter was sleeping soundly in a penthouse somewhere, while my sister bled under bright lights. And that's when something inside me snapped. Not anger, not fear. Something sharper, resolve. After the surgery, a nurse stepped into the waiting room. She made it, and so did the baby. A girl, 4 pounds, in the NICU but strong. I cried, harder than I thought I would, because she lived. They both lived, and now Carter had everything to lose. I went home the next day, packed up the fake glasses, burned the L. Donovan ID badge, sent one final email to my contact, the journalist Ruby had never met. Subject, "Ready when you are." If I learned anything from watching men like Carter Blake climb their way to the top, it's this. They never expect the quiet ones to be dangerous. They expect fire, chaos, screaming. They don't expect a woman who moves in silence, collects receipts, and picks the exact day and hour to light the match. And I picked mine. Wednesday, 7:03 a.m. Prime scroll time. People halfway through their first coffee, just enough time to go viral before the PR team finishes their croissants. The journalist, Kelsey, didn't use my name. She just called it a credible anonymous insider. The headline, tech star Carter Blake accused of covering up pregnancy scandal, manipulating female employee voice recordings, Slack messages, and direct testimony expose rising entrepreneurs' toxic behavior inside CoreQuant. It was clean, devastating, professionally lethal. The article included audio clips of Carter's voice messages to Ruby, Slack screenshots between him and his VP, discussing how to contain her, a full timeline of the relationship. Based on digital evidence I gathered, a blurred image of Ruby's hospital bracelet, time-stamped 2 weeks ago. They didn't name Ruby. They didn't have to. Carter knew exactly who they were talking about. By 10:12 a.m., the fallout began. I sat at my kitchen table, scrolling Twitter. Hashtag Carter Blake was trending in 3 cities. Posts ranged from, "Another tech bro exploiting women while selling disruption. Gross," to "We believed in this guy. He spoke at my university last month. I feel sick." I opened Instagram. CoreQuant's profile had gone dark. No stories, no posts. Just a last photo of Carter, smiling with a mic in his hand, and a caption that now felt sickening. "Empower through innovation. Build with integrity." He'd built a lie so clean it looked like truth. But now the mask was cracking. I waited for the panic, the email, the spin. Instead, I got something else. 1:17 p.m., CoreQuant headquarters. I received a Slack message from Tyson, the same VP who appeared in Carter's shady DMs. Tyson: "Hey L, any idea who's leaking internal convos? Carter's freaking out. Legal is coming in." I typed slowly. "Me. No clue. I barely talked to anyone outside of you and Claudia." 3 dots. Typing. Then nothing. He knew better than to press. Still, I deleted the message after 10 minutes. And backed up everything again to a private encrypted drive. Then again to a second. Paranoia was my new perfume. Meanwhile, Ruby was still in the hospital. She hadn't read the article yet. She didn't know I'd leaked anything. I wasn't hiding it. I was waiting. She just had surgery. Her body was recovering. Her mind was still fragile. But something in her changed the moment she held her daughter. She named her Hope. The ICU nurse laid that tiny pink creature in her arms, and Ruby just stared, not crying, not trembling, just staring, like she couldn't believe her body still had the capacity to make something good. "Do you think I ruined her life?" she whispered. I smiled, brushing a hair from her damp forehead. "No," I said. "You saved hers." Kelsey called me. She sounded shaken. "Juliet, Carter's team is threatening to sue. They're denying everything." I expected that. "They always deny it first," I said. "He's blaming a disgruntled ex who edited audio to frame him. That's rich," I muttered. "He wants your name. He thinks you're the source." I didn't give it. "Good," I said. "Let him think I'm anyone. Let him chase shadows." There was a pause. "He's holding a press conference tomorrow." I stood still. This was faster than I expected. "Be careful, Jules. Guys like him, when they lose control, they get vicious." I already knew that. I'd seen what he did to Ruby. I wasn't going to let it happen again. That night, I stayed at the hospital. Ruby was asleep. Hope was in the ICU. The floor was quiet, that eerie kind of quiet only hospitals manage. I sat near the window, watching the blinking city lights, and I thought about him, Carter Blake. I imagined him pacing in his penthouse, yelling at interns, flipping through NDAs, trying to figure out how someone outplayed him. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. The next morning, press conference, I watched it live on YouTube. Carter wore a suit, dark charcoal, no tie, hair combed back like a politician, but his eyes were puffy, his lips dry, his smile crooked. I want to speak plainly. The rumors circulating about me are deeply hurtful and entirely false. He kept his hands folded on the table, like a man trying to look stable. The voice recordings were heavily manipulated. The Slack screenshots were taken out of context. I've built Core Quant from the ground up with one thing in mind: integrity. I laughed out loud. The chat box on YouTube was brutal. "He sounds rehearsed AF. So we're gaslighting now? Cool, cool. Shut up, Carter." He blinked more rapidly as the speech went on. And when the reporter asked, "Is the woman in question planning legal action?" he paused. That second of hesitation, that was the crack. He said, "I don't believe so." But I saw it. He wasn't sure. He wasn't in control anymore. There are two kinds of people who work for men like Carter Blake: those who believe him, and those who survive him. I wasn't sure which category his assistant belonged to, until I got her message. Wednesday, 6:22 p.m. Anonymous email subject: "I think you're not who you say you are, but I don't care." The message was short. "You left your flash drive in the printer tray yesterday. I opened it. I shouldn't have, but I did. You're not L. Donovan. You're something else. I'm not going to expose you, but I want out. I've got things, messages, screenshots, voice memos. He's done worse than what's in the press. Meet me tomorrow, 8 p.m., north side of Fairmount Park. Wear black. Come alone." No name, but I knew who it was. Claudia, Carter's assistant. The same woman who'd smiled too tightly, who never made eye contact, who once flinched when Carter joked about her dating habits in front of the team. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was switching sides. That night at the hospital, Ruby finally saw the article. She hadn't picked up her phone in days. The nurses warned me her blood pressure had been spiking. Stress wasn't safe. But someone left a printed copy of the story on her meal tray. She read it during the 3 a.m. feed. When I walked into her room, she was staring at the headline, her knuckles white around the paper. "You leaked this?" she asked, voice hoarse. I nodded. "I did." "That's my bracelet." I blurred it. I said quickly, "No one would know it's you." She didn't blink. "But he knows. Carter knows." She looked down at her baby, asleep in her arms. "He's going to retaliate. He always retaliates." I stepped closer. "Not this time. I've got people watching. You're safe here. And I've got more evidence coming in." She shook her head. "You don't get it. He doesn't just destroy reputations. He erases people. My voice cracked before I even realized it. Then let's stop him, together. She looked at me like I'd asked her to cut open her own chest. What do you want me to do? Go on TV? Show my face? No, I said. I want you to own your truth, in your own time, your own voice. But yes, one day, soon. She looked down again and whispered the one sentence I didn't expect. Then promise me if something happens to me, you'll raise hope. The room went still, the beeping, the dim lights, my own heartbeat in my ears. I promise, I said, but nothing will happen. Because this time we're ahead of him. The next evening, Fairmount Park. It was dark and cold. I wore black jeans, a hoodie, and no makeup. I parked 6 blocks away and walked with my keys between my knuckles, like a weapon, just in case. I found Claudia near a fountain, arms crossed, hair tied back, eyes darting like she'd practiced escape routes. She didn't speak at first. She just handed me a flash drive. That's everything I've got. Chats from his private folder. He calls it insurance. I call it sick. I took it carefully, like it might burn. What's in it? She looked around. Other girls. NDA payoffs. One from 2019. She was 19. They paid her 40 grand to stay quiet. My stomach turned. You saw it all. She nodded. I'm his assistant. I see everything. I stared at her. Why now? Claudia's voice trembled. Because you're the first person I've ever seen who made him sweat. You're not afraid of him. And maybe, if you win, I won't have to be either. I watched her walk away. She never looked back. Friday, downtown Allentown. It was supposed to be a normal day. Hope had gained weight. Ruby had a follow-up scheduled. I was organizing a transfer to a postpartum counselor. But something felt off. I walked home from the hospital just before sunset. Streets were busy. Kids on bikes. Teens hanging around the bodega. Still, something felt off. I passed the alley near 12th Street, and that's when I saw it. A man, standing still, watching. He didn't follow me, but he wasn't casual either, just watching. Black jacket, baseball cap, face partially hidden. I kept walking. Faster. Turned the corner. Crossed the street. When I looked back, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went over every document on the flash drive. Claudia wasn't lying. Carter had a folder labeled PR coverage and another one called break glass. Inside, NDAs with initials, dates, and payout amounts, screenshots of conversations with women threatening legal action. A draft email to a crisis PR firm titled, If Juliet Goes Public. He knew. He didn't know how much I had, but he was preparing for war. Good. So was I. There's a rule they never teach you in school. When you decide to bring down a man with power, you'd better have airtight shoes, because the mud gets deep fast. And I was sinking. Friday night, after the alley. I didn't tell Ruby about the man. She didn't need more stress, not with her healing scar and round-the-clock feedings. But that night, as I locked every window in the apartment and pushed a chair against the front door, I knew Carter had escalated. He didn't sue. He didn't go to the police. He sent a message, the kind that doesn't leave fingerprints. Saturday morning, enter the lawyers. Jordan and Lowe LLP was a small, specialized law firm in Philadelphia, recommended by the same journalist who broke Carter's scandal. They specialized in high-profile women's rights cases. Their website said, "Your silence isn't safety. It's their strategy." I called at 8:04 a.m. By 11, I was in a conference room, handing over the flash drive Claudia had given me. "We'll need Ruby's testimony." The junior partner, B, Megan Lowe, said, "She's scared," I replied, "but I'm working on it." Megan nodded slowly, her pen tapping a rhythm on her notepad. "And you? You infiltrated his company under a false name. That's risky." "I never accessed anything I wasn't given. No hacks, no breaches, just listened." She smiled, small, admiring. "We've seen worse, trust me." As I left the office, I got a message from Kelsey, the journalist. "He's planning a podcast interview, unfiltered, no legal script, he's going rogue." Of course he was. Men like Carter don't beg for help. They sell their trauma before anyone else can. That evening, Ruby's breaking point. The sun was setting over the city skyline when I found Ruby sitting in the rocking chair, hope cradled to her chest, tears falling silently down her cheeks. "She smiled today," she whispered. "For real, just for a second." I sat beside her on the floor. "She knows you're her safe place." "I don't feel safe, Jules. Not in here, not in my own skin." Silence. Then, "I'll talk to the lawyer." My head shot up. "You're sure?" She nodded. "Not in public. Not yet. But someone needs to know the truth. If he ever tries this again, I want a record that he broke me first." I wrapped my arms around her, and for a brief moment, I felt hope rising like a small flame in a dark tunnel. Sunday, the mistake. I was careless. After everything, the aliases, the planning, the shadows, I made one mistake. I told Nina. She was my coworker, my friend, the kind who brought soup when you were sick and left memes in your inbox when the office got heavy. I needed to vent, just a little. I told her part of the story, not everything. Just that I was helping my sister through something dark, and that Carter was involved. I shouldn't have said his name, but I did. And that night, at 10:37 p.m., she texted me, "Hey, you didn't tell me you were connected to the Core Quant scandal. That guy Carter, didn't he speak at your school?" My stomach dropped. How did she connect that? I opened Instagram. Nina had liked a post on Carter's official page 2 days ago, a damage control video titled, "My Truth, Carter Blake Speaks Out." My pulse sped up. She followed him. Still. And now she knew. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I changed passwords, backed up data, ran system sweeps. I wasn't sure if she'd say anything, but Carter didn't need much, just a thread to pull. And Nina? She was a people pleaser, especially to men who smiled pretty and offered compliments in public. I thought she was safe. I was wrong. Ruby met with the law firm via a secure Zoom call. She cried, paused often, but she spoke. She told them everything. How Carter love-bombed her, how he cut off her friends, how he controlled when she could text, what she could wear, how he vanished the minute she got pregnant, and how she feared for her life after seeing him again on screen. Megan took notes, gently. "Ruby, if you're willing, we'd like to name him in a formal complaint. We'll keep your identity private." Ruby wiped her face. "Okay, but only if my daughter's name is never mentioned." I gave her a slow, proud nod. We were moving forward, until my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You told the wrong person, Jules." Attached, a photo of me walking with Ruby outside the hospital, taken from across the street. Chilling, blurry, but real. I froze. I showed it to Ruby. Her lips trembled. "You said we were safe." "I thought we were." That night, I got another email, this time from Carter's lawyer. Subject: Cease and desist notice. You have been identified as the anonymous whistleblower behind recent defamatory leaks. Cease further contact with media entities. Cease impersonation of Core Quant staff. Legal action pending. He was bluffing, trying to spook me, but the photo? That wasn't a bluff. That was a warning. He wasn't hiding behind legal letters anymore. He was watching. I always thought the worst kind of fear was loud, breathless, screaming, heart-pounding terror. But I was wrong. The worst kind of fear is quiet. It sits behind your eyes. It waits in your bones. It doesn't make you run. It makes you freeze. After Carter's lawyer sent the cease and desist, after that photo landed in my inbox, I knew this wasn't about reputation anymore. This was about survival, so I vanished. Monday night, disappearing act. I packed 2 duffel bags, one for me, one for Ruby and the baby. We left before midnight. No goodbye, no social media posts, not even a note to the neighbors. Ruby didn't ask questions. She saw the picture, and that was enough. She'd learned the hard way that silence sometimes keeps you alive longer than the truth. We drove 3 hours west, into a borrowed cabin outside Lancaster. One of my college friends, an ER nurse with more burner phones than I wanted to ask about, owed me a favor. No digital trace, she warned. Use cash. Don't log into anything. And if anyone comes asking, I've never heard of you. Done. Tuesday. The podcast drops. Carter's voice came through the speakers like poison dipped in honey. Look, I made mistakes. I've been with women who maybe wanted more than I could give. I've had things taken out of context. But abuser? No. That's not who I am. He laughed at one point. Laughed. You're telling me a guy with a successful company, a future IPO, and a world-class team would risk all that over some situationship? Please. My hands curled into fists. Then he played a clip, one of Ruby's old voice messages. Carter, please don't do this. I'm scared. I'm not trying to trap you. He cut it off before the rest played. Then added, smugly, I think that speaks for itself. Ruby broke. She was sitting next to me, Hope sleeping in her arms, when she heard her own voice on the air. How did he get that? She whispered. I don't know. But I did. He'd recorded everything. He'd been planning this kind of insurance since the beginning. That night I called Claudia. I used the burner. She answered on the first ring. He fired me, she said flatly, escorted me out, but not before I downloaded one last file. What file? A digital vault locked behind 2 passwords. But I cracked the first. You want it? I need it. Meet me. No, send it. He's not done, Juliet. He has more. I saw folders labeled with your name, not L. Your real name. My blood ran cold. He knows? He knows. She sent the vault. It was encrypted, password protected. I stared at the file icon glowing on the borrowed laptop like it was a live bomb. Wednesday, the trap. I sat in the cabin's kitchen at 2:14 a.m., baby Hope asleep in the next room, Ruby staring blankly at the ceiling fan. She hadn't said much since the podcast. I didn't push her. Instead, I opened the vault. The password hint read, 3 letters, 1 lie. I typed Jul, my name, Rub, her name, Ho, the insult he'd once used in a deleted text I recovered. Nothing worked. Then I thought harder. ELL, the fake name, the lie. It unlocked. And what I saw next made my stomach twist. Videos, not just of Ruby, of me. CCTV footage from the Corquant lobby. Voice recordings, me talking to Claudia, to Tyson, to IT. Zoom screenshots. Even a photo of me helping Ruby into the hospital the night she went into labor, time-stamped, geotagged. He'd been watching, collecting, building a case not just to defend himself, but to destroy us. At the bottom of the folder was a draft email. To press@techtrendmedia.com. Subject, you missed the real villain. Attached, full report on Juliet Cross, alias L. Donovan. History of false identities, mental instability, see attached psych eval from college, and possible extortion plot against Carter Blake. Sources confirm she impersonated Corquant staff and leaked confidential data. My vision blurred. He wasn't just fighting back, he was flipping the script. I sent the file to Megan Lowe. We need to move faster, I wrote. He's coming for me, not just legally, personally. She replied in under 5 minutes. Stay put. We're filing an injunction. The court won't let him publish this. I believed her, but I didn't trust the system to move faster than a man with everything to lose. Thursday morning. The crack in the armor. Hope started crying around 4 a.m. Ruby was too exhausted to move. I picked her up, rocked her gently, whispering nonsense words just to calm the air. And then I saw it, an alert on my phone. One of the watchdog Reddit threads about Carter I subscribed to had posted a leak. Not from me, not from Claudia, from someone else. Breaking. Former Corquant intern speaks anonymously, confirms pattern of control, grooming, emotional abuse. Mentions Ruby, name redacted, and a second woman close to the case. Someone had spoken up. We weren't alone. That's when I realized Carter didn't have a final card. We did. The truth. And the truth was multiplying. They say justice is blind, but for women like us, women with no power, no platform, it often feels like justice is deaf too. Until someone screams loud enough to make the world turn. And Ruby, she was finally ready to scream. Friday, the statement. The lawyer, Megan Lowe, drove all the way from Philly to meet Ruby in person. No Zoom, no screens, just a warm cardigan, a gentle voice, and a laptop that clicked softly as Ruby spoke. I sat in the corner with Hope, rocking her slowly. And I watched as my sister, the same girl who once whispered apologies for bruises she didn't cause, straightened her spine and told her story. No tears, no edits, just the truth. Every awful, jagged inch of it. He told me I was a liability. He said I was manipulating him. He laughed when I showed him the ultrasound. Megan didn't interrupt once. When it was over, she closed her laptop softly. "You were brave," she said, "and that matters." Ruby looked over at me. "It doesn't feel brave. It feels like bleeding in front of strangers. But bleeding in public? That's how you stop someone from drawing blood again." Saturday, the leak that shattered his image. The same night Ruby gave her statement, another bombshell hit the internet. Claudia had been sitting on one last piece of Carter's past, one she hadn't dared share until now. A recording, old, grainy, a phone call between Carter and his college mentor. In it, Carter jokes about getting rid of a girl after she threatened to ruin his career. I told her I'd ruin her first, and guess what? She backed off. They always do. They don't want smoke, man. They want attention. You could hear the smugness, the pure, sociopathic certainty in his voice. It went viral within 2 hours. Hashtags flooded Twitter. Hashtag believe her, hashtag Carter Blake canceled, hashtag pattern not mistake. The same tech blogs that once named him a startup visionary were now rewriting their headlines in real time. He wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was radioactive. Sunday morning, the protest. It started small, 15 people outside Corquant HQ in downtown Philly, mostly women, a few college students. One woman held a sign that read, "Her silence wasn't consent, it was survival." By noon, it was 50 people. By 4 p.m., it was nearly 200. I watched it unfold on a burner phone live stream. Ruby sat beside me, silent, her lips slightly parted. "They're really out there," she whispered. "They're not going away." And for the first time since this all began, she smiled. But then, the fire came closer. That evening, I went outside to take the trash out from the cabin. The night air was cool. Crickets buzzed softly. I was just a few feet from the front porch when I heard the sound. Click. Not a branch breaking, not natural. Metal. I froze. There, in the woods, a faint flash, like someone had lit a cigarette, then snuffed it out. Too fast, too intentional. I stepped backward slowly. Inside, I locked the doors. All of them. Then I turned off the lights, and I waited. Nothing happened that night. But I knew Carter's reach didn't stop at lawyers. He had people. And one of them had just gotten way too close. Monday, I made a decision. I sent a message to Kelsey, the journalist. No more aliases, no more shadows. Run my name, run it all. She responded in under 5 minutes. Are you sure? Once it's out there, it's out forever. I'm sure. If Carter wanted to destroy me, he was going to have to do it in the light. That afternoon, the betrayal becomes public. As I prepped my own public statement, Megan sent me a warning. He's leaking your college file, the psych eval. I swallowed hard. It was from my junior year, a breakdown. Diagnosed anxiety, stress-related dissociation. Triggered by an abusive professor, a man the school later quietly dismissed. Carter had somehow gotten it. And now, he was spinning it like I was unstable, dangerous, paranoid, a threat to his company's safety. I almost panicked. Almost. But then I looked at Hope and remembered, there's nothing unstable about telling the truth. Monday night, my statement. It was a 5-minute video, one take, no script, just me in front of the cabin wall, speaking softly. My name is Juliet Cross. For the last 3 months, I've been helping my sister escape a man who tried to erase her story and then mine. He said I was unwell, that I was unstable, that I had a history of breakdowns. He's right. I broke, but not because I'm weak. I broke because I spent years being quiet, and I'm not quiet anymore. I uploaded it, and I waited. The day my video went live, I turned off notifications. Not because I was afraid, because I didn't need validation. I just needed the truth to echo, and it did. Tuesday, 6 hours after upload. The video was shared over 22,000 times. TikTok clips, Instagram stories, Twitter threads. People weren't just commenting, they were remembering. Women tagging their friends. Didn't he message you in 2019? This sounds just like what happened at that startup I interned at. By midnight, Reddit had compiled a timeline of Carter's known interactions. 7 women, 4 cities, 1 horrifying pattern. Meanwhile, Ruby stayed silent. She didn't say much. Not even when my phone buzzed with an email from Corquant's board. A woman named Lillian Astor introduced herself as the interim legal head. We are beginning a formal investigation. Carter Blake has been placed on administrative leave. I read it twice, then again. Then I said the words aloud. He's suspended. Ruby blinked. They're actually doing something? They're trying to save face, I said. But yeah, it's a start. Hope let out a soft coo from her crib nearby, and Ruby looked at her like she was the only thing left in the world that made sense. But the calm didn't last. At 3:47 p.m., I got a DM from a woman I didn't recognize. Sienna P. Her profile was private, no bio, a single post, a photo of a cat in sunlight. The message? I dated Carter in 2018. I saw your video. I've been silent. Can we talk? I hesitated, but something about the message felt raw. We set up a call for later that night. 7:40 p.m. Sienna's truth. She called from a landline. No camera, just her voice. Tight, controlled. He was charming, smarter than everyone else. He made me feel seen. Until he didn't. She told me about the slow emotional sabotage, the kind Ruby had described. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. He had a list, a literal Google Doc, of women he said were career threats. I leaned forward. A list? Yeah. Names, notes, risk level. Like a psycho's playbook. I only saw it once. He laughed when I asked. Said it was a joke. But Ruby's name was on it. I felt the air shift around me. And yours, she added. 10:30 p.m. Silence in the cabin. I returned to the bedroom. Ruby had been quiet all evening. Exhausted. I assumed she was napping. But the room was empty. So was the crib. No Hope, no note, no sound. Just her phone, on the dresser, screen cracked like it had been dropped. I didn't scream. Not at first. I ran through the hallway, calling her name. Checked the bathroom, kitchen, back porch. Nothing. I ran outside barefoot, scanning the woods. No one, not even the flash of a cigarette this time. Then I saw it taped to the front door. A single printed message. No handwriting, just typed. If she wants to fix this, she'll do it alone. You're not part of this anymore. I stared at the paper. My hands shook. This wasn't Carter's legal team. This wasn't some public statement. This was personal. And Ruby? Ruby had either gone willingly or someone made her believe she had no other choice. I called Megan Lowe. She answered on the second ring. Juliet? She's gone. What? Ruby and Hope. They're gone. I read her the message. There was a beat of silence. Then, I'm contacting the police. Get somewhere public. Stay where there are cameras. But the problem wasn't who saw me. The problem was, no one saw Ruby leave. No one saw who took her. No one saw why. 11:20 p.m., the baby monitor. I remembered something. The baby monitor we used had cloud backup. It saved motion-triggered clips, even if you didn't press record. I grabbed the tablet, opened the app, and scrolled through the timeline. Then, I found it. 10:07 p.m. A figure entered the room. Tall, hoodie, gloves. Ruby was sitting in the rocking chair, but she stood up willingly. Handed the figure Hope. No resistance, no struggle. She said something, but the audio was muffled. Then she walked out the door behind them. I watched the clip 6 times, and every time it hit harder. She left with him. I dropped onto the floor. And for the first time since this all started, I cried like I was the one who broke. The hardest part of grief isn't the crying. It's the silence after the crying stops. The moment when you realize the world has moved on, but you haven't. That's where I was the night Ruby disappeared. Floating, waiting, drowning. Tuesday morning, the search. I spent the first hour after Ruby vanished trying to track her phone, but it had been wiped. Factory reset. No pings, no location, no trace. Hope's baby bracelet, the one with her initials, was left behind on the changing table. That hit harder than I expected, because Ruby never removed that bracelet, not even to sleep, not even when she showered. If she left it behind, it wasn't by choice. I filed a police report. They were polite but slow. Small town, no urgency. You said she left with someone, and it looked voluntary? Yes, but it wasn't voluntary. You don't know him. He makes people think they have no options. The officer sighed. We'll keep an eye out. If she contacts you, let us know. If, the most dangerous word in the English language. Tuesday night, the package. It arrived after sunset. No return address, no note. Just a plain manila envelope wedged under the cabin door. Inside, a flash drive, a printed photo of Ruby and Hope on a subway platform, and a single sentence typed on plain white paper. Listen closely, no mistakes. I inserted the flash drive into the laptop. There was only one file, a voice recording, time-stamped, new. Ruby's voice filled the room, shaky, but calm. Hey, Jules, it's me. Don't freak out. I'm safe. Hope is okay. I had to go. My pulse spiked. He reached out, said he wanted to make things right. Just a conversation. That's all. My jaw clenched. I don't believe him. But I had to know. I need to hear it from him. The why, the how, the truth. I won't let him hurt Hope. I swear. She paused. Please don't try to find me. Just trust me. I have to do this. The recording ended. No background noise. No GPS data. Nothing. Just Ruby's voice, echoing like a ghost in my chest. That night, the rage. I punched the wall. Literally. Knuckles bleeding. Splinters lodged deep. Because that wasn't Ruby talking. That was fear wearing Ruby's skin. I called Claudia. She didn't pick up. So I called Megan Lowe. He has her, I said. Did she say she was in danger? No, but that's how he works. She thinks she made the choice. Megan was quiet. Then she said something I hadn't expected. There's something I haven't told you. Megan's secret. back when Carter started his first company before Corquant. There was a woman who filed a report with HR about psychological control. Not abuse, just emotional coercion. She was a receptionist, Megan said. New, smart. She quit 3 weeks later. They found her a year ago. She was living in a small town in Vermont. Never married. Changed her name. No social media. We think he broke her. Quietly. Silently. And she never came back. I stared out the window at the woods. He's trying to do the same to Ruby. Not if we get there first. Wednesday morning, the press conference I wasn't going to watch, but I had to. Corquant's board was holding a press conference about leadership accountability, and Carter was there, flanked by 2 lawyers. He wore a gray suit, no tie, no emotion. The spokesperson spoke first. Effective immediately, Carter Blake has been removed as CEO of Corquant. Applause erupted off camera. Then Carter stepped to the mic, and his first words, "There's been a lot of noise, a lot of hurt. I never meant to cause harm, but I also never asked to be anyone's villain." He paused, looked directly at the cameras. "And if Juliet Cross is watching, this isn't over." I stood frozen in the cabin. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. That afternoon, I made a plan. I needed help. So I called someone I never thought I'd involve, my father. We hadn't spoken in over a year, not since he walked out on us after Mom died. But he answered. "Jules?" I didn't cry. I just said, "Ruby's in danger and I need a tracker." He didn't ask questions, just said, "I'll be there by morning." Because for all his flaws, and he had many, my father had once been in Army intelligence, and now he was my new weapon. I hadn't seen my father in nearly 18 months, not since the funeral. Not since he told Ruby and me that grief would pass if we just worked harder. But the man who arrived at the cabin that morning looked older, quieter, like life had taken some of the bark out of him. Still, when he stepped out of the truck and hugged me, his voice was steel. "We'll find your sister. And the baby. I swear on your mother's name." Thursday morning, the hunt begins. He brought gear, a signal booster, a second-hand Stingray tracker, a tablet loaded with open-source surveillance tools, and 2 burner phones we'd alternate using every 12 hours. "First thing," he said, "we isolate her last digital footprint." We started with the Baby Monitor app. Ruby had logged into it from her own phone before wiping it. That left a brief signal, a Wi-Fi handshake, logged on the app's cloud backup. Looks like her phone hit a repeater tower outside Reading, 10:12 p.m., same night she vanished. A rural highway. I looked at him. "They're on the move?" He frowned. "Or already parked somewhere, no signal can escape." Back at Corquant, the crack widens. While we hunted from the cabin, Megan Lowe was unraveling Carter from the inside. She called me midday. There's something buried in his first startup, a pattern of shell companies that moved money offshore. One of them made a single payment 2 years ago to a private clinic. What kind of clinic? No name listed, just a rural address outside Reading. My blood went cold. "Send it." The video, I didn't want to open it. I already knew whatever it was would hurt. But I clicked anyway, and Ruby appeared on the screen. She sat in a plain room. Sterile walls, no windows, hair tied back, no makeup. Hope was asleep in a carrier on her chest. She looked straight into the camera. "I know you're watching this, Jules. I know you won't stop, but I need you to. He's not going to hurt me. I chose to come here." Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Not enough for a stranger to notice, but I knew her. And that flicker, it was pure fear. I'm getting help, real help. I needed space to understand the pain I caused. I recoiled. What pain she caused? He'd flipped it, again. "Please, just let me go. Let us both go." The video ended. I turned to my father. He's brainwashing her. Not completely. Not yet, but he's close. Then we're out of time. Midnight, Megan's message. As we drove away from the clinic, I got another encrypted message from Megan. This one wasn't about Carter's crimes. It was about his exposure. His board's voting to cut him off completely, but they need one last piece, something criminal, solid, physical. I looked at my father. The clinic. We break in, get files, cameras, anything. He nodded. Before he moves her again, there's a moment. Right before you break into a place you're not supposed to be. When your instincts scream, don't. And I listened to mine for exactly 3 seconds. Then I shoved that voice down and followed my father toward the clinic's side entrance. Friday, 2:11 a.m., the break-in. The old mansion had a service door, rusted, barely visible behind a rotted fence. My father had already clipped the lock with bolt cutters. Inside was dark. Not quiet. I could hear the soft hum of machines, the faint hiss of air conditioning. Someone had modernized this place, but not too much. We moved slowly. He had a flashlight with red film over the lens. No bright beams, just soft light. The hall smelled like disinfectant and paint thinner. And then we reached a locked door with a card reader. "Security office," he whispered. "This is where they store footage." He took out a universal RFID cloner. Swiped it. Waited. Green light. We were in. Inside, 6 monitors, one of them looping hallway footage. 2 server towers, a small wall safe, a cabinet with files. He went for the servers. I went for the cabinet. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. Intake records. There was a clipboard marked Confidential Clients, and Ruby's name was 3rd on the list. Cross, Ruby L. Date of arrival, 3 days ago. Status, voluntary observation. Assigned liaison, Dr. S. Wentworth. But the note underneath chilled me. Subject is cooperative. Strong bond with infant. Recommend scheduled memory reframing within 72 hours. Memory, reframing. He wasn't just isolating her. He was trying to rewrite her mind. I stuffed the paperwork into my bag and turned to my father. "Got it," he said, holding up a flash drive. "Camera feeds. This'll fry him." We moved to exit. That's when I saw her. Ruby. She was in a room on the 2nd floor. We could see her through a hallway window. Asleep on a cot, baby Hope curled against her side, wires leading from her arm to a slow IV drip. I wanted to scream, but my father stopped me with a hand on my shoulder. "If we rush now, we risk her being moved before we can legally stop it. We need everything we've gathered. One more day." I nodded, barely, but I took out my phone and snapped photos through the glass. Not for evidence, for me, to remind myself she was still alive. 5:30 a.m. The upload. Back at the cabin, we plugged in the drive and uploaded everything to Megan Lowe. We have Ruby's intake file, building access logs, live camera footage showing her with medical staff, and evidence of a non-consensual psychological treatment plan. Her reply came fast. "Perfect. I'm calling the DA. This crosses a line. Medical coercion under false psychological pretense. He's done." Meanwhile, inside the clinic, Ruby was stirring. Her sessions with Dr. Wentworth were beginning to backfire. He'd been showing her edited videos, moments with Carter that made her feel guilty, complicit, small. But something was wrong. "That wasn't what I said," she murmured once, her voice confused. He cut the sentence. "That's not what I said." She began questioning him. Small things at first, then bigger ones. "Why do I need reframing if I'm not mentally ill?" He smiled every time. But she didn't. Not anymore. That afternoon, Ruby found a loose tile beneath her cot. Inside it, she discovered a piece of paper, torn from a journal. It read, "You're not crazy. They tried to convince me too. If you're reading this, they haven't won yet." No signature. Just fear and hope. two things that, when combined, start fires. Friday, 7:13 p.m., Carter's final card. Just as we thought we had him cornered, a new leak hit social media. Audio recordings of me. Clips of me talking about Ruby's trauma. Out of context, it made it seem like I had coerced her, manipulated her to speak out, or worse, that I'd used her to destroy Carter. He'd spliced the files, perfectly timed, and uploaded them through an anonymous proxy. The internet turned divided. Some called me a hero. Others accused me of building a career off my sister's pain. She's just another social climber, using trauma for attention. Did you notice how perfect her video lighting was? My hands trembled. I wasn't afraid of strangers. I was afraid Ruby might see this and believe it. There are two kinds of silence, one that brings peace and one that feels like a vacuum before a bomb goes off. Friday night was the second kind. Friday, 11:52 p.m., the legal bomb. Megan filed the emergency injunction just before midnight. It was based on unlicensed psychological procedures, unlawful detainment under a falsified voluntary agreement, and psychological manipulation intended to reframe memory. The clinic was listed as a private rehabilitation center, but the state had no record of licensing it for mental health treatment. That was our hook. The judge's order was fast. Clinic must cease operations within 48 hours. All patients to be released or transferred to a certified facility. Full audit to begin immediately. It wasn't arrest, not yet, but it was a lock on the door, and I knew exactly who that key belonged to, Ruby. Meanwhile, inside the clinic, Ruby woke to find a nurse gently removing her IV line. Just hydration, the nurse said. No meds, just vitamins, all part of the care package. Ruby didn't speak. She didn't need to, because her mind, sharp, slow, and skeptical, had returned. She started watching them. Every movement, every key they used, every hallway they avoided. That afternoon, she refused her next session. Dr. Wentworth showed up himself. Slick hair, calm voice, cold smile. You're tired, that's all. This is trauma fatigue. You'll feel better when you let go. She tilted her head. Let go of what? Of the story you told yourself. She looked at him then, long and still, and for the first time, she asked, Do you have kids? He didn't answer, which told her everything. Friday, 4:15 p.m. The shift. While Carter pushed doctored audio online, I hit back. I posted a video. Short, direct, raw. I see what you did. I hear the edits. But here's what you forgot. I have receipts, and the internet has memory. I uploaded the full uncut conversation he edited, screenshots of the clinic registry logs, the timeline of Ruby's disappearance, a clip from her earlier recorded message with subtitles showing her inconsistencies, the fear under her forced calm. And people noticed. The narrative snapped back. One viral comment read, When men lie, they weaponize nuance. When women speak, they document truth. The tides were turning again. Inside the clinic, Ruby finds the basement. At 11:42 p.m., while staff was distracted with a medical equipment delivery, Ruby made her move. She used a hair clip to unlock the patient bathroom door. From there, she slipped into the laundry corridor, past the nurses' lockers, and found the basement staircase. Downstairs, it was cold, industrial, half-renovated and poorly lit. But what she found? Files, boxes, cabinets, dozens of redacted medical logs, photos of women, some smiling, some unconscious, and a metal drawer labeled DNR clients, Blake approved. DNR, do not resurface. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew it wasn't good. So she took photos, every page. Then she ran. Friday, 11:59 p.m., the chase. An alarm went off upstairs. Someone had noticed she was missing. Ruby flew up the back stairs, heart pounding. She reached her room and locked the door. Baby Hope stirred in the crib. She scooped her up, taped the phone she'd hidden behind the wall vent to her chest, the one I had gifted her before the infiltration. Then she opened the window and jumped. The bushes caught her fall. Mostly, she limped through the trees. Not far, just enough to find the road. She flagged down the first car. An older woman, terrified at first. But once Ruby said, "Please, I'm escaping a private hospital," the woman made room in the back seat and drove. 2:14 a.m. The message. I was sitting in the cabin, still awake, staring at nothing, when the burner phone buzzed. One photo. Ruby, in a car, baby in her lap, eyes wet but awake. The message read, "I'm safe, but I've got something you need to see." Some reunions feel like fireworks. Ours felt like a flood. It was 3:27 a.m. when I met Ruby at the Old Weller's Diner parking lot. She stepped out of the car barefoot. Baby Hope pressed tight to her chest, and before either of us said a word, we were crying in each other's arms. No big speech, no apology, just breath and contact and relief. "You found me," she whispered. I pulled back just enough to look at her face. "You found yourself. I just left the light on." Saturday, 6:45 a.m., the evidence. We returned to the cabin, exhausted but alive. Ruby pulled a handful of crumpled papers from her backpack, then plugged in the second phone, the one with the basement photos. Together, we laid it all out on the table. And what we found was so much worse than we imagined. The DNR files, 14 women, all connected to Carter or his previous companies, all marked with risk ratings: emotional, legal, volatile, public figure. Beside each, notes like "needs reframing," "already signed NDA, suggest relocation," "too loud, suppress." The scariest thing? Most of them had been sent to this same clinic or similar sites in Nevada and Vermont. We weren't his only victims. We were just the ones who didn't vanish completely. Ruby pointed at one name: Maxwell. Kiar intern, emotional, unstable, dismissed Jan 2019. "She was the one who left that note in my tile," Ruby said softly. "She never made it out." 9:15 a.m., Megan's reaction. We called Megan over encrypted video chat. As Ruby walked her through the evidence, I watched Megan's face change. Professional composure gave way to raw fury. "We're not dealing with just manipulation. This is coordinated predation backed by money, influence, and a false mental health." Meanwhile, Carter's final play. Carter filed an emergency injunction against us that morning. Claimed we had stolen proprietary materials from his wellness facility. We laughed. Then we read the fine print. Seeks immediate gag order. All digital and verbal communication embargoed. He was trying to silence us, one last time, through the courts. But what he didn't know? Megan had already sent the DNR files to 3 journalists and 1 federal investigator before we opened his legal document. The moment we read it, it was already obsolete. 2 p.m., the interview that changed everything. We went live with Nia Grant, a respected investigative journalist, with 2.3 million YouTube subscribers and a contract with 2 major news outlets. The segment was called "The Silence Contracts: How Women Are Coerced and Rewritten by Corporate Elites." It featured Ruby's story, in her words, footage of the clinic, excerpts from the DNR files, a blurred audio clip of Carter admitting to reframing inconvenient narratives. At one point, Nia leaned forward and asked Ruby, "What do you want to say to the people who still think Carter Blake is a visionary?" Ruby didn't blink. Visionaries don't erase people. They inspire them. What he did wasn't genius. It was evil dressed in business casual. Within 20 minutes, the video had 600,000 views. Within 2 hours, it was trending number 2 on Twitter. And by sunset, 2 more women came forward. One was a former legal associate. The other, a celebrity influencer. 6:23 p.m. Carter's arrest warrant filed. Megan texted us just 2 words: "It's done." Carter Blake was officially under criminal investigation for unlawful detainment, medical fraud, obstruction of justice, and coercive psychological manipulation under pretense of care. The feds were involved now. He was no longer a scandal. He was a wanted man. But we weren't finished. 8 p.m., the live broadcast. We scheduled one last stream, just Ruby and me. No dramatic lighting, no music, just our voices. We told everything, even the parts that hurt. Even the part where I said, I failed her once, and I'll carry that. But this time, I stood my ground, and so did she. Over 1.2 million people watched live. The comment section was a blur of, "We believe you. This changes everything." I was silenced too. Ruby looked into the camera and said, "To every woman who's been told she overreacted, to every sister who was forced to prove someone else's violence, we're not overreacting, we're overdue." The night Carter Blake was arrested, it wasn't dramatic. No helicopters, no foot chase. Just a knock on the door of a luxury condo in Manhattan. 2 plainclothes agents, 1 arrest warrant. Carter asked for his lawyer. The agent just handed him a folded piece of paper. DNR client records, signed by you. That was the moment he realized it was over. Sunday morning, the headlines. Tech titan accused of coercion, manipulation, and medical fraud. Former victims speak out. The cut. Sisterhood as survival. How 2 women took down a predator. We didn't ask for the spotlight, but we used it. Not to promote, not to profit, but to warn, and to remind every woman watching. We're not disposable. We're not hysterical. We're not going away. A week after the story broke, Ruby stood on stage at a Women's Trauma and Advocacy Summit in D.C. She wore a navy blazer and no makeup. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. He tried to edit my life like it was one of his press releases. But the thing about editors, they never own the story. The author does. And I'm taking the pen back. The standing ovation lasted nearly 2 minutes. She cried in the green room. I held her while she shook. Hope clapped, not knowing why, but somehow knowing everything. The other women, they started emailing us, DMing, tagging us in their posts. A scientist who was silenced in grad school. A mom who was forced to sign an NDA after reporting harassment at a retail job. A woman who escaped a similar clinic in Arizona and never told anyone. They weren't just thanking us. They were telling their own stories. Carter had tried to end voices. He only amplified them. Carter's trial, 9 months later. We testified, so did 8 other women. Some flew across the country. Some wore sunglasses in court. Some sobbed. Some did not. Carter stared straight ahead, smug, empty, powerless. When the verdict came in, guilty on all counts, he didn't flinch. But we did. We finally exhaled. The settlement. Every woman harmed by his network received a payout. Ruby donated hers to start a nonprofit, the Maxwell Foundation, named after the girl who left that note behind in the clinic wall. Mission: to expose, dismantle, and prevent psychological abuse disguised as care. Their slogan? We believe you, even if no one else did. 2 months after the trial, I received an anonymous envelope. Inside, a USB drive. No note, no fingerprints, just a single file, the real Blake archives. It contained audio Carter had recorded of himself, practice pitches, inner thoughts, even unhinged confessions. They always cry after. That's how you know they believed it. It wasn't legal evidence, but it was fuel, and I gave it to every journalist who had once hesitated to tell our story. The final scene. 2 sisters on a porch. 1 year later, Ruby and I sat on the back porch of a quiet cabin in the Catskills. Hope was chasing fireflies. The wind was soft. The sky unbothered. We didn't talk about Carter. We talked about grace and grit and what it means to be sisters who survived. "Do you think we're healed?" Ruby asked. I shook my head. "No, but I think we're healing, and I think maybe that's enough." And me? I returned to my podcast, but I changed it. It wasn't about trends or true crime anymore. Now it was called She Spoke First. Every week, we featured a woman whose story had once been silenced. Not just the loud, headline-grabbing cases, but the quiet ones too. The teachers, the artists, the women who rebuilt their lives one tiny brick at a time. One night, I closed an episode with this. People always ask why we didn't go to the police first, why we didn't scream louder. The truth? We did. They just weren't listening yet.